there's no secret here among the four of us and others who have covered sports for a long time. The NFL is a meat market. They can say whatever they want about CTE and we care for the players and all that. It is damn right their responsibility to try to care for their players, but there's a lot of lip service that goes on. And obviously the CTE issue and how they try to just sandbag the whole thing is a prime example. And of course, Antonio Brown is at one end of the spectrum in terms, whether he even wants or has ever sought help legitimately.
Well,
But
does that not then speak to the NFL? Because if the NFL, and we know that the NFL has covered up CTE over decades, and in order just to keep it quiet, and their players have certainly been hurt by it. The players of past generations are coming up now dying at a record rate, CTE being diagnosed at a record rate. So does this not say more than anything else? If you want to blame this on somebody, you got to blame it on the NFL. They've been hiding for years, and yeah, they got to bring these people in and maybe even make it public and say he needs help. If he doesn't want to get the help, we can't force him to, but we know there's somebody here. You and I and everybody sitting here today knows that the NFL will never do that. They'll never take that responsibility, but they need to because this is a unique sport dependent on the type of physical damage that a player undergoes on a day-to-day basis.
no question. I mean, and it's again what they say and what they do, which is very different. And we've seen it time and time again. And no, they're not going to step up. And so that's why it's hard to root for anybody here because the Bucks know, as we've noted, damn well they knew what they were getting into with Antonio Brown, and they got what they deserved at the end of the day.
I mean, like I said, two coaches. I mean, think about his career. Pittsburgh, right?
Yep.
Mike Tomlin's now had 15 consecutive years of at least a winning record, of not having a losing record. Where else did he go? New England, right? Wasn't he in New England?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, with Brady.
Okay.
He had a one-year deal with
right.
the Patriots in 2019
Right.
that was supposedly worth $15 million, and then he was released by the Patriots we're looking at it here right now, 11 days after being signed by the Patriots.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, this is the kind of stuff Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin didn't put up with this stuff. All right. You either are a football player and you're willing to kind of adhere to what they're up to, or you're leaving. And these are two very successful coaches. I'd say the most successful coaches in the last 3 decades in the league. So, sure. I mean, it's no surprise. I got no problem. Arians is and Joey maybe knows this better. He seems like a bit of an old school guy who also is very liked by the players. I mean, he was that when he was the coordinator in Indianapolis, right? I mean, people just thought the guy was phenomenal, and that's how he got his first head coaching job, and that's how he ended up in Tampa. But I mean, if Brown claims that his ankle was hurt, Joey, it didn't look like it when he was skipping across that end zone with shirtless, did it?
No. You hear stories about guys being made to play and being shot up, and we could certainly believe that to be the case. We know that's the case, but you're right. What he did going off that field makes the whole story kind of fall apart. And again, there's so much he said, she said kind of things about what actually happened on the field and in the locker room, but we've heard enough from various sources that seem to indicate that the major sticking point for Brown was he wasn't getting enough passes thrown his way, and that was why he was angry.
So in the end result here, guys, who do we root for? I mean, George said it. It's tough to root for anybody here, but what are the final conclusions we draw from this? Should we feel sorry for Antonio? Should we demand the NFL do more? Or should we just toss this off and say, another clown who basically screwed up his career? Where do we go? Where do we end?
It's another clown who screwed up his career, and I guess everybody looks at it differently. But how do you even live with yourself if you're doing things like this? I mean, how do you sleep at night? I mean, just the kind of life he's leading and the things he's involved with. I guess it just doesn't even matter. But I feel for him in a way because he's got more troubles than you can even account for. And he probably does need some form of help, some form of something to get him going in the right path. But, it's a story we've seen before. It's a story we're going to see again, unfortunately.
Where do we come to an end on this, George?
I agree with Joey. It's hard to feel a great deal of compassion for someone who keeps screwing up. If he has mental health issues, certainly the right people have not gotten to him to say, hey, look, you need help. I mean, even if it, let's face it, even if it's the perfunctory, I know I've done some things wrong and I want to move on and I need to get help, but we don't even hear that from him. It was a little bit, reference a little bit in that statement, but here's a guy who's completely clueless and doing whatever the hell he wants to do and thinks he can just move on because, as we've noted, entitled player who is highly talented.
Which he is. We do have to admit that, guys. I mean, we all know this. He has been an entitled athlete his entire career, dating back to high school. So that has to be a part of this, yes?
Somebody at some point needed to put their foot down,
but nobody's going to put their foot down on somebody who's talented, Joey.
True.
But eventually that talent runs out. Age catches up with all of them. And then they got, when Cal Ripken retired at 38 years old, you know what he became? A young man again, even though he was a very old baseball player. He had still has a long life in front of him. So, what should happen, Ed, is that somebody in the NFL PR department, somebody in the Bucs media department needs to publicly say in an open letter to Antonio, hey, we want to help you. We want to see if there are issues and maybe you can help players in the future. We want to really kind of get deep into what's going on here, and then if he refuses it, then it's easy. But
you realize, of course, you're asking the NFL and teams in the NFL to be human.
Yeah, but if they do that, they score millions of PR points.
Yes,
millions of PR points. But like you said,
what's interesting, I think, is when these things happen, I think the coaches, the administrators, the public relations people, they just live in fear for what the public's going to think. We just got to get through this crisis, and now Antonio Brown has gone away, and we can get back to playing football. But they haven't solved the problem. They haven't addressed the problem, and it's going to come up again and again and again. So you're just going from crisis to crisis, and you're just hoping to get through it without some kind of a huge public backlash that they all fear. So at no point is anybody, like Sam said, kind of taking steps to solve this problem.
Let us discuss. Go ahead.
I have a possible solution that will kind of take the focus off of Antonio. Sign Terrell Owens. He's available. He's there.
And he says he can
problem solved. Nobody talks about Antonio anymore.
You're a damn troublemaker, Diaz. I swear.
Time. Get your popcorn out, kids.
Couldn't be more.
I got a chuckle. I was somewhere and the sound was down. I looked up at the TV and they're addressing the troubled Antonio Brown was Keyshawn Johnson, which a few decades ago we had our runarounds with Keyshawn. So it's just a comedy show. It's
what's going to be next? Clinton Portis doing it from his jail cell?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee, and the year we put Charles Haley in, it was really interesting because Charles Haley was a phenomenal player, right? We all agree. Just Hall of Fame worthy kind of credentials. But I've always said that what kind of teammate you are, if we're going to pontificate about this being the greatest team game, it's just the ultimate team game, then isn't what kind of teammate you are part of the criteria to become a Hall of Fame player? And a lot of people felt that way about Terrell Owens, obviously, but Haley, the week that we voted on him when he was a finalist and he got in, early in that week, Super Bowl week, there was a clinical report released saying that he was bipolar, that he really had an issue, and he made a heartfelt apology. This guy took a dump in one of his teammates' shoes in the locker room. This is not normal behavior by anybody. And he said, he was bipolar and he's gotten some help and so forth. Now, I don't know if that was all kind of orchestrated and it's true or not, but the fact that it came out Super Bowl week was very evident that people in his camp were trying to let people know that this guy had mental issues outside of what kind of football player he was. So I just think that there's there's a lot of enabling going on across the league, and I think the league could do very well in the public's eye to address this more frankly.
Well, and those mental issues you talk about and the Haley issue and so much, a lot of this comes out at the appropriate time with his people
Right.
behind him saying, we're looking at a vote right now for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We need to grease the skids here. And if we do this by telling people you had a problem and you're getting better, I mean, we all know that this is all just part of public relations remaking of an image, Sam.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's fine. But my question, if it's true, then I don't care when it comes out. If it's true. But if it's all phony, then it's a big sham.
Well, see, it bothers me when it comes out to be an advantageous thing. I'm just doing it because I want to make sure it's out there so I can get into the Hall of Fame.
So I get enough votes.